What I'm going to discuss is the nature of the work I produced a couple of years ago for Michael Delta, who's a Greek composer, entitled Forbidden Poetry. And what I'd like to open up as a question to our panel today is the following. Is it practice-led research when we're making pieces just for fun? And this is what I'd like to discuss with you. Because when I did my PhD, of course, I started from a very specific hypothetical question. I had very specific aims, theoretical and artistic. I reflected myself during the process of making the work, and I followed the methodology of the reflective practitioner as it has been defined by Dolan Schoen, and his method called reflection in action. So let's have a look at this. Practitioners do reflect on their knowing in practice, sometimes in the relative tranquility of the post-mortem. They think back on a project they have undertaken, a situation they have lived through, and they explore the understandings they have brought to their handling of the case. But they may also reflect on practice while they're in the midst of it. Now, what is interesting for Schoen is that it is the surprising result of action that triggers reflection, and it is the production of a satisfactory move that brings reflection temporarily to a close. Now, for Schoen, tacit knowledge is extremely important, and reflection in action is related to our tacit knowledge. And for Schoen, it means that our tacit knowledge is embedded in our actions as artists and in our feel for the stuff that we're dealing with. So it feels right to say that our knowing is in our action, and often a skillful action reveals a knowing more than we can say. So that is totally relevant to the work that I'm about to show you today, because in retrospect, looking back at the video work that I created, I could see the tendencies that I have as an artist and the behaviors that I tend to follow as an artist, which certainly were not conscious to me while I was making the work. So for Forbidden Poetry, I had to create a series of video and animation works to be projected live in a concert that took place at Patras in Greece with Patras String Orchestra. What was extremely interesting for me in that project, it was that there were absolutely no guidance or guidelines or restrictions. So I was thinking, okay, that's really interesting. No one needs to tell me what I'm supposed to be doing. And from a standpoint of absolute and complete freedom as an artist, I can go whichever way I want to. And that was extremely interesting because in retrospect, I looked at the work and I started realizing a lot about how I behave as an artist. So I came to realize, first of all, that I act as a choreographer more than as a director. And what do I mean by this? I mean that I use improvisational principle as main means of gathering and collecting and manipulating the material that I have to work with. But I also employ improvisation on the way I collaborate with my director of photography and my editor. So I started working with very simple ideas. For example, an image of a rose. And then I started playing on how I can use this imagery and how I can project it onto different surfaces to explore various visual effects. And when it came to my collaborative process, it felt as if we were all in a playground, because we were engaged in an endless game with the material that we had at hand, and we were coming up with very interesting ideas just by trying out things. So let's have a look and see samples of this work so I can illustrate better what it is that I'm doing.